Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you here, and it's dried out a little bit. I don't hear the rain anymore, so I'm going to assume that it stopped. I'm Lindsey Turrentine, editor-in-chief of CNET.com, and if you don't know, you're crazy, but this is Robert Scoble. He is the entrepreneur in residence at Upload VR. He was prior a futurist at Rackspace, and he has millions of followers across many social media platforms. You have definitely seen something he's tweeted about or written on Facebook about or Snapchatted about at some point recently. Robert spends a lot of time thinking about the technology that will shape the coming years, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the post-cell phone future. It's hard to imagine that there may be a future in which you're not spending many hours like this, but it's probably going to happen. And so my first question is, what does the near future look like? We spend a lot of time, having fun at dinner parties talking about implants and biometrics, but really, what's happening in the next few years that might get our faces out of our phones?
Well, when you say near future, I'm thinking this year. And Facebook just shipped Minecraft on virtual reality on Samsung's Gear VR. So that gives you a taste. We're going to move some of our minutes from that mobile phone into VR headsets, which might be a mobile phone, but don't feel like a mobile phone. Have you in an immersive world where the mobile phone screen is used to deliver that world to you. If you look a little further, like 3 to 5 years, we're going to start getting augmented reality glasses. We're already seeing tastes of them, right, with Microsoft HoloLens and Meta, which showed off at TED this year, and ODG glasses, which Caterpillar is already using ODG glasses to augment a $1 million tractor for the maintenance workers, and it overlays the CAD drawings on top of the tractor and teaches you how to fix the tractor. So in our workspaces, we're already getting some of these early looks at things, but I care about consumers, and I figure 3 to 5 years we're going to see things like Magic Leap. Apple's working on a glass. Snapchat's working on a glass. Watch what they do this year. They're coming out with a connected camera, which is going to be the gateway drug into this augmented reality world. They're already teaching the kids to point their phone at their face, and they're putting all sorts of stuff on the face using these augmented reality techniques. And I think that leads into about 5 years from now, where many of us in this audience are going to be wearing a glass and augmenting our world, seeing CNN on the floor, seeing our monitors virtualized in our workspace, in our glasses, and then putting stuff on top of the real world, like I could turn you into SpongeBob or something like that, right?
That sounds great. I've always wanted to be SpongeBob. So let me ask you this. There's a lot of coolness there, a lot of cool factor, a lot of, how neat would it be to look out into this audience and see you all as, Smurfs or whatever, just to make me feel a little bit more relaxed. But why, really on a day-to-day basis, why would we want to move away from something that's just completely saturated the market, that feels kind of like a complete experience right now, and move on to something that's kind of new and not quite stable? What are we going to get out of that layering of a new reality on top of the world that we all look at every day?
I mean, first of all, how many people have had their heads in a Magic Leap or a Meta or a HoloLens? Wow, this is a very advanced audience. So some of you have had a taste of how mind-blowing this is. When you put on Meta or HoloLens, I have not yet seen Magic Leap, but so many of my friends have told me it's even cooler than Meta. Meta was the most mind-blowing product I've had to try, I think, since the Macintosh. I think it's that dramatically important. And when you start seeing that you can control virtualized objects, holograms, in your world, and you can drag them around, you can poke them, you can slap them, you can spin them, you can make them bigger and put a virtualized screen up here so I could watch CNN, or my spreadsheet is up here. You start realizing just how mind-blowing this stuff is. And we're still in the early days of where they're starting to show us how these glasses are going to sense the real world in 3 dimensions, and they're going to put things on top of it. So we're going to have Minecraft on a table, or a chessboard on a table, or something like that, and we're going to be able to play with each other. You know, Philip Rosedale just a few minutes ago announced High Fidelity, which is a virtualized world for VR, and we're starting to talk about social VR this year, right? Facebook showed it off a couple weeks ago at Facebook F8, where you could play ping pong against somebody else, you could pass photos from somebody else to you, you could punch people and play with people over the internet in the VR glasses. And when you start exploring some of these new things, you start realizing just how deeply the world is about to change for everybody in this room.
So something, I've heard questions like, well, why would I want, I like to joke and call it face-based technology.
Yeah.
Why would I want my technology on my face? Why would I want to write an email using a pair of glasses? Is your answer to that, and I don't want to put too many words in your mouth, but why would you write an email?
Yeah.
Is there a different way that we're going to be communicating with each other once we move away from typing on a screen?
Well, we were trying to get some video out here to show off some of these new eye sensors coming out. Jim Margraf showed me at South by Southwest iFluence, he's built 2 little eye sensors that watch your eyes. And he can type with his eyes, and he can certainly look at user interface elements and pull up things. And the demos that he alone showed me are totally mind-blowing. He said, let's pull something out of your pocket. I pulled an iPhone out, and he said, okay, put on the glasses, look at the iPhone. And a menu sprayed off the iPhone. And then I could select buy that iPhone, and it took a picture of the iPhone, went to Google image search, found out that it was an iPhone 6s Plus, then went over to Amazon, found out how much it was, and it presented that to me visually, all by using my eyes, without touching anything, without using my hands in front of it. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And when you start thinking about what our eyes communicate, when we look at products or look at people, our eyes get bigger. It tells the system about things. And we're going to build new user interfaces and new ways to explore our world. Now, think about what Gmail just is shipping, right? It's really starting to answer our email automatically. It's reading our email inbound and presenting us with 3 possible answers. Well, now I'm just going to be able to use, a message will pop up during a speech like this, and I'll just be able to look at the answer and say, send that answer to somebody without touching anything, without typing. So the amount of typing is going to go down. You're starting to sense that if you have an Amazon Echo in your house. How many people here have an Amazon Echo in their house? Do you guys love it? Yes? Yeah. And you use it to talk. Amazon Echo is a cylinder that has 8 microphones on it, and it hears me from every room in my house. I only have 1 so far, and I'm going to buy a few more. But you talk to it. You say, Alexa, play the news, and NPR starts playing. Alexa, play the Beatles, and the Beatles start playing. Alexa, tell me the weather, and it tells me it's raining outside, right? Alexa, what's the stock market doing? And it reads my stocks to me. Alexa, buy some toilet paper, and it says, would you like the Charmin 2-ply 20-pack that you bought last time for $19? Sure, give me your code. And you give it your code, and 2 days later, a package of toilet paper shows up, right? It's pretty crazy to think about this new world where we're going to talk to things, we're going to use our eyes to do things, and then we're going to use our hands and use these 3D sensors that are quickly coming out. At Google I/O in a few weeks, you're going to hear a lot about Google Tango, which has multiple sensors to map out the world in 3 dimensions and allow developers to put things on top of that world.
So, you're extremely bullish on what happens here in the eye space. And, we've all become very accustomed to this idea that the cell phone acts as a hub for all of the interactions we have with different services, with different products, with Amazon, with Google, with you name it.
Uber.
Like it all gets pushed through this device. As you start to explore these different kinds of inputs, you're talking about what you do with your eyes, but also what we might be able to do with our voices. That becomes more fragmented. How do you see that playing out in the future? Are we talking about a world in which we actually are decentralizing what's happening in our sort of personal computing life.
One thing you should watch is what's happening in the Siri world, the Siri, Cortana, Google Voice Search, and this new company called Viv, VIV.ai. Viv gave me a preview of what they're doing. It's two guys who left Apple, who started Siri, left Apple and started a new company called Viv that'll come out later this year. And today, if you ask Siri a question like, how many people are checked in at Collision on Foursquare? Siri usually understands you just fine, even if you have an Irish accent like Patty does, right? And Foursquare has an answer to that question. There's people checked in here on Foursquare, and there is an answer. And Foursquare has an API. But Apple has 80 lines of code that have to be written between the utterance of what you just told it, the noun, the adjective, the verb in the sentence you asked, to the API. And Apple hasn't written that line of code, that 80 lines of code for Foursquare. Now, Viv gets rid of the 80 lines of code. Well, it doesn't really. When you search, it writes the 80 lines of code right as you're speaking to it. So it's really advanced computer science. It's much more flexible of a system than Apple's system, which is hard-coded. So it's getting away from this hard-codedness, and it lets you do much more complex queries to it. And then Foursquare can say, hey, anytime you hear a sentence with Foursquare in the middle of it, give us all that stuff, and we'll help you write the 80 lines of code. We'll give you hints as to what to give us to give an accurate answer back to your system. And then Viv also has a profile. So if you say, deliver me a large pepperoni pizza from Round Table, all of that goes into a profile that you can see, you can correct, and you can change. But the profile gets smarter and smarter over time so that you have to ask it fewer and fewer things. So that's one way to approach this world. Facebook M is coming at it a completely different way, which is they're having teams of humans listening to us ask questions, and we can ask any unstructured question we want, and it'll answer us. And the common questions then get turned into algorithms, sort of like Viv is doing on that side. So this space of bots, chat bots, is just rapidly evolving. You should be watching this space. There's some Facebook news groups that are just on fire right now, even though the bots themselves are really stupid and don't work that well. They're getting better every hour, literally, right now, as developers are figuring out how to work with them, and as Facebook and other systems that use these bots are getting richer and making the APIs richer. But watch Viv, watch Facebook's bots in Messenger or WeChat if you're in China, or other systems that are coming along. And then watch Facebook M as well. It's really exciting. And this all leads back into the glasses. In 3 to 5 years, we're going to be talking to the system and asking it, can you get me an Uber? And can you find out where there's a great steak dinner here in New Orleans? By the way, it's Doris Metropolitan. It's the best steak you'll ever have in the world. And the 3 people who had dinner with me last night agree. And so does Siri, by the way. When you ask Siri, what's the best steak dinner in New Orleans, Doris Metropolitan comes up, right? It already is starting to answer some of these questions we all have about the world, but now imagine you have that in your glass and you can just talk to it all day long.
So when Google tackled this with Google Glass, perhaps a little prematurely, kind of fell on its sword, like took one for the team, tried it out to see what people would accept and what they wouldn't. I know you spent a ton of time with Google Glass.
I wore it for a year without taking it off.
A year without taking it off. It's a really brave experiment. What we found during that time was that there were some big challenges with getting people to wear technology on their faces. I know that you're still really bullish about this. So I want to ask you, does taking technology out of a screen or moving the screen to something that's translucent in front of your face and a little bit closer to you as a human, does that allow us for the humanity that we need in order to continue to socialize in the way that we want to?
A lot of people misunderstood Google Glass and blamed the camera on its failure, and that was absolutely wrong. And you are accurate. it messes with our social contract. We evolved as humans to look into each other's eyes to understand, are we paying attention to each other? Are we interested in each other? And are we trustworthy? All sorts of stuff. And when you put a screen in between our eyes, it messes with that contract, and we don't even know how to explain it. So we blame other things like, will you take those off? Are you recording me? That kind of thing. Google Glass failed because it didn't have enough utility to get over that cost. The camera really sucked. The battery life only lasted 45 minutes. The display was a really small and low resolution display that didn't do anything like what Meta or Magic Leap is doing, which is overlaying virtual images on top of the real world. It did not even try to do that. And it didn't meet the expectations that normal people had. The first night I got it home, my wife asked, can I look at somebody and see something about them? Because that's our expectation. We want to know what's your name, what's your latest Twitter tweet, what does Wikipedia say about you? We'd like to see that right when we look at you, right? Particularly if you're wearing a badge, which, by the way, you're going to, one of the use cases of Magic Leap is you're going to come to a conference. You're going to use your eyes. You're going to look at somebody's badge. It's going to look up that person's name, go to the internet, find out all their stuff, and then bring it back within a microsecond, and you're going to start seeing all sorts of stuff.
Need that.
I need that, right? I met this guy named Peter Pyatt at Davos. He had a badge on. I knew his name. I knew who he worked for. He worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I knew that he was somebody important because everybody in the conversation was genuflecting toward him. And they were using scientific language, but I didn't have an ability to look him up on Google because the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And of course, I get back to Google, and he's the discoverer of the Ebola virus. I wish my glasses had told me that in that conversation. I would have had a much different conversation with him than I did. Anyways, Google Glass did not meet any of these expectations, and it was a $1,500 device that just wasn't ready for consumers and was launched badly and did not properly let us deal with this social contract problem. You couldn't fold them up and take them off and put them in your pocket. These things are not going to be appropriate for every situation. Date night, I'm probably not going to be able to wear them for a while, right? Movies, you're probably not going to be able to wear these glasses while you're at a movie theater because they have a camera on them. At South by, I went to a party, and the party invite said, it was called Austin Underground. It said, no social media, no cameras, and no phones in your hand or you're getting kicked out. That's how the invite, right? So you're not going to be able to wear these glasses at that kind of party because they're going to have cameras on them. They're going to have 3D depth sensors. They're going to have digital displays to tell me all sorts of stuff. And it really does make people nervous, particularly if I have it and you don't, because you don't like that information asynchronicity. I have information about you that you don't have about me. Now, once everybody actually is wearing them, we'll get much more relaxed about that. But we do need to find a way to get around these social problems. I think that's a real big question mark for the Magic Leaps and the HoloLenses. Are they going to be acceptable in normal society while going to a conference or whatnot? I believe they will be, because I believe the utility is going to be so deep that everybody's going to wear it at some level or be accepting of it. You know, it's funny, when I first got my cell phone, my stepmom used to give me shit for looking at the phone at dinner, and now she does it, right? So our human behavior changes to our technology that we bring out, and the utility is going to be so deep that you're going to have to put up with it. I'm sorry, I'm going to wear it. And
you know, in my household, my children are actually the ones who instituted the no phones at the table rule. They were the ones who pushed back. They were like, no, we want you here, not that. And I think that there is some chance that it's going to be that way. I mean, if technology is so ubiquitous that it's on our faces all the time, there could be a real pushback. Yeah. And there's some obvious questions: fashion, price point, lenses, yeah. And fashion again, right? There are people like me who actually, I don't wear any corrective lenses. Why on earth would I want to wear glasses? How long do you think, just just a guess, but how long do you think it's going to take to work through those problems? I mean, there are answers to all of those issues.
Yeah, just on the why would I wear it? When you put on Meta, you have 20 screens in front of you. And if you're only looking at your phone, you have one small little screen. So I can do more work than you can. I can watch more football games than you can. I can look at more spreadsheets than you can. I can code on more screens than you can. In fact, the coder, the guy who's writing the user interface for Meta, works inside Meta. He does not have physical screens anymore. When you visit his cube, he doesn't have physical screens. He has virtualized screens that he's seeing inside the Meta head screens. So at some point, I'm going to put them on you and say, look at what I get to see in the world, and you're not as efficient as I am because I have more things to do with these glasses than you do, and you're going to give up, or you're going to resist. And there will be 20% of people who are just going to resist this world. It's going to be foreign to them. You're hearing this not just about glasses, by the way. When you bring up self-driving cars, you hear the same resistance about self-driving cars. I like to drive. No, you don't like to drive in traffic. You like to drive when it's a car commercial and you have a two-lane road, curvy road with no traffic on it. I like to drive there too, but 90% of the time I'm stuck in stop-and-go traffic. I don't like to drive there. It'd be nice to hit a button and be able to look at my phone or talk to somebody while the car is driving in traffic, right?
Yeah.
So there is this resistance to new technology, and it's something that marketers are going to have to work hard at overcoming, and technologists have to work to make sure there's enough utility to get you over this. When I give my talks, a lot of people, because I talk about the stadiums that have 2,000 beacons and know exactly where you are full time. And we have sensors on us now that are watching our heart rate, and soon a lot more is coming. And it freaks people out. I asked at the end of my talk how many people are freaked out by this world that's here today or soon to be coming. And a third of the hands go up. And then I say, you're going to use it because there's going to be so deep utility that you're going to use it. And here's an example. I use TripIt. And how many people here use TripIt? Yeah, quite a few people. So the CEO of TripIt explained how it works. It's hooked into the air traffic control system, right? And so if TripIt says your flight's being canceled, your flight's being canceled. TripIt also asked for access to my Gmail. Think about the privacy implications of that. TripIt's owned by Concur, a public company, and it has access to my Gmail. I let it go around. I have no idea what the developers are actually looking at inside my email and whether they're looking for stuff that doesn't have to do with travel. I really don't have an idea if they do or not. I trust the company because I have not had bad consequences yet, but I don't know. It also has my credit card. It has my GPS. It knows where I'm located. And one night in Chicago, I was in a plane going home, and we were sitting on the runway, and TripIt said, your flight's being canceled. Would you like another flight out of town? And I remember the CEO telling me how it works. And he said, if it says your flight's being canceled, it's being canceled because the pilot has to tell the air traffic control system that we're changing our flight plan. And so if it says your flight plan's being changed, it has a real-time access to that API. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, the pilot came on and said, our flight's being canceled because we can't get a jet engine started and we have to go back to the gate. Everybody else in the plane was there overnight. I had one of 3 seats on the next flight.
So if it works for you, you're going to love it, and this is
how I'm going to sell it to you, because I'm going to show you, hey, you can shoot zombies in the crowd, you can see all sorts of information, and you can watch the football screen on 4 screens right in front of you, right?
It's an inspiring future, and we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much, Robert.
Thanks.
That was really fun.
Thank you.